this is the first in I'm going to try to do a series of videos that are just documenting the various practices that I do. I'm not really a teacher. These aren't meant to be teaching. They're just me documenting what I do in my own personal practice. So this first set of things is just my stretching routine. And these are not, well, I guess they're not really stretches. They're more loosening exercises. Mostly joint flexibility and things like that, as opposed to muscle stretches. There are a few muscle stretches in there, but for the most part, it's joint mobility. For all of this set, or for most of it, I isolate one specific spot and do some motion with that. And the rest of my body through the whole thing, I try to keep in what's called wuji posture, which is from taijiquan. Wuji posture is standing with your feet under your shoulders, and you're imagining there's something holding the crown of your head up like a string. You're like a puppet hanging from a string. And doing this lets your whole body hang down from your head, and it straightens your spine out and creates what's called the wuji posture. So your whole body's in that posture, and then we're going to work down through the body, starting with the neck. So I do neck rotations, starting from the point at where the neck meets the head. I'm rotating the head in small circles on the top of the neck. And I do everything in sets of 8. That's just my personal, what I do. I don't think there's really any significance to that. That was what my teacher did, and when I trained with him, we did 8 of everything, so now I do 8 of everything. So you start with that upper neck, and then the middle neck. So you're rotating your head around, so the base of the neck is staying still, and you're rotating the top of the neck and the head on the base of the neck. And again, 8 in both directions. And then the final rotation in the neck is at the base of the neck, so where the neck meets the shoulders. So you're rotating the whole neck on the shoulders, and the head, of course, will go with the neck. So this is much larger circles. Oh, and I forgot to mention, part of this wuji posture is a tongue position, which is the tongue should be lightly pressed against the roof of the mouth, and the teeth should be lightly touching. The tongue is not pressed firmly, and the teeth are not ground together. Your jaw is not clenched, but the teeth are touching, and the tongue is touching the roof. This helps. In my experience, it helps connect the whole body together when you're doing these various movements. I've also been told it has some energetic benefit if you're looking at like chi flow of energy and things like that, but I don't really know enough about that to say anything on that. I just know that I can feel a difference when I have that posture. I can feel it connect my whole body together a little better. So the next neck stretches are just directional stretching. So I just lean my head forward, backward, side to side. Again, I'm doing it from the base of the neck. So here I'm putting my chin into my chest as close as I can. and then back. And then to the sides, I'm keeping my face forward and letting my ear try to touch my shoulder. And then I also stretch down with the other arm, the opposite arm. So this ear is going down, and this fingers on the other opposite hand are going down. And then the other side. So that's all of the neck ones that I do. From there I move to the shoulders. The first shoulder things I do is just basically taking the arm and making it go up and down like a train, like an old steam train. Doing this again, the rest of the body is trying to stay as stationary as possible. So. And then the other side. Problem with having a beard is you get beard hair in your mouth all the time. I forgot what I did. Start talking about my beard, I forget what I'm doing. When I'm doing this, I try to keep track of what I'm doing, but I have a forgetful mind, and sometimes I kind of forget what I'm doing. In that case, just do whatever you don't remember doing. It doesn't hurt to do the things over again. Like if I'm counting and I get to 6 and then I forgot what number I'm at, I just do a few more. You know, I imagine, well, I'm probably at 4 or 5. I'll just count another 4 and then I'll be good. So I'm not super strict on myself about doing exactly the right number or anything. The next shoulder exercise uses a different posture. So I've been standing in this Wuji posture. Now what I'm going to use is what in the Wu style taijiquan we call archer stance. So you're going to have one foot forward. Your feet are still in the same, so it's like your feet are on train tracks, right? So here your feet were below your shoulders. Now they're going to stay on the same line. Just one will move forward a little bit in front of the other foot. And you're going to lean forward into that front foot, right? So you put your weight, there should be a straight line from your shoulders into your back heel through your leg. So your back is straight, lined up straight with your back leg. And what I'm going to do here is an arm rotation. My arm's going to go around in a circle, and that circle will be defined by the plane of the circle will be parallel to the plane of my 2 knees. So the plane that runs like through my legs and in my 2 knees, the circle will run parallel to that. So if you see at this angle, my knees are on this plane, my hand will follow a circle on that plane as well. So from a front angle, it's going to kind of go at a diagonal into the corner. And again, I just do 8 in every direction. 8 just seems like a decent number. It's what when I was training with my teacher, that's what we did. And I got used to doing that. I don't think the number really matters that much. You just need to do a few of them just to get the stretch in. Now, once I've done that, shoulder, I'm going to do a second shoulder rotation, but this is a smaller one. And I'm going to lean forward. So I'm going to sink my weight down, closing this back leg, keeping the front calf perpendicular to the ground. I'm getting down as low down into this as I can. And then I'm going to point my finger to the ground and let it just hang from the shoulder. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of impetus so that it goes in a circle. And once you start the circle, you shouldn't be using any muscle to let it rotate. It should just hang freely and rotate just by the momentum that it's developed from that first little nudge. And again, I do 8 in one direction and then 8 the other way. And when you're doing this, I'm in the same posture from this lean, but I'm now keeping the front leg, the bottom half of the front leg, in the same position. And I'm basically just crunching everything down as far in as I go. This is going to stretch this tendon a little bit, depending on how closed your, right, how far up your toe can come to your calf, or your shin, I guess. So you're just going to go down to whatever's comfortable, right? And then from there, you're bending at the hip and giving yourself a direction so your hand can hang straight down from your shoulders. And I'll do that on the, now I'm going to do the other arm. So I'll put the right foot forward and same big rotation, following the plane of the knees. And again, during this, you're trying to move the rest of your body as little as possible. And doing this, if you want to, so I do this at a fairly easy distance, right? So this doesn't really stretch my leg muscles any. But if you really want to get muscle stretches in your legs, it's okay to do this stretch at a deeper stance. So right, to develop the muscle stretch a little bit more, you can start from a lower position and put your foot out further. And this lean is going to stretch your calf muscle, right? And you can do exactly the same thing. Just make sure you keep this straight back and leg. And you can do all of those exactly. For me, I'm kind of out of shape, so I can't really go much further down than this for the arm rotation. But you can do it as deep as you want to develop a better stretch. Just be careful that you're following all the right body principles there. Right, if you're going way deeper, you don't want to be stretching your knee out over your toe or doing like this. You want to keep your calf should be directly over your heel. And when you're doing this, you don't want this or like weird angles with your feet. I mean, I guess you could, but for me, I'm trying to keep into this set system that I've learned. So I try to follow all those principles and do it at the height that's comfortable for me within those principles. Now I've talked myself out of breath. So where were we? So I did the shoulders. Now from there I'll do the wrists. So the wrist stretches will basically put your hands together like you're doing kind of a Buddhist prayer, but then clasp them. So fingers interlocked, clasped, palms together, elbows as close as is comfortable. And what we're going to do is rotate back and forth, one hand on top. And when one hand's on top, I'll push up and then rotate over and push down. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then the other way, up, down, up. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but forward. So here I had my palms, my forearms pointed up. Now I just open that up and have them facing forward. So I push out and in, out and in. And this is rotating your wrists some. It also gives you a bit of a stretch in your fingers. And the way to make it a tougher stretch on you is to keep your elbows closer together. The closer together your elbows are, the more it works your wrist, right? So if you have them way out, this is really easy if you let it control your arms. But if you keep these here, then it's really stretching the wrists. And then the other direction. And then I'll do also a rotation. So I kind of push forward, rotate around, and back and around like this. And then the final wrist one I'll do is just hold my arms out in front of me, and I just rotate the hands in circles, trying not to move. So it's okay to rotate the forearm, but not to move the forearm around. Okay. Now we're going to do some waist rotation. So the first waist rotation that I do is a twisting motion. So twisting the upper body. So I'm not twisting the hips, right? From my hips down, my body is staying basically perfectly still. I'm not doing this. My hips stay stationary, and I rotate from here upwards with the waist. So, and as I rotate the waist, I'm also going to incorporate a light tapping exercise where I'll use I use this point where there's sort of flesh between the thumb and the finger. I don't know that it's necessary to do that. That's just the one that I've always done. And this hand will come across and hit kind of below my belly. And in the back, it'll come around and hit right behind my kidneys, right? So, and then in the front, I'm rotating, and the arm motions, you're trying not to really use any arm muscle. The rotations in the arm are coming from this hip rotation. This is throwing the arms around. There's a bunch of different places you can tap. I just tap the one spot. There's like, you can come here, you can come up and tap at your heart. You can tap in the sides, like come further around. There's many different points that you can tap, but I just use this one. It's a simple one to do, basically mirrored in the front and the back, and it lets me kind of do this. The important part for me here is doing the waist rotation. Doing tapping exercises is a whole other thing. There's all sorts of points you can tap on your body that's beyond the scope of what I'm doing here. This is just mobility and stretching stuff. So you do those rotations. Then the next one is I do kind of hula hoop kind of hip rotations. So I try to keep my head, my shoulders as stationary as possible over my feet, which keeps my weight planted in my feet so that I'm not rotating around on the feet. The feet are planted, and I just rotate the hips in a circle. And for this, do a circle that's comfortable. If you're trying to push the circle too big, it'll cause you to lose control of your upper body, and you don't want that. You want to be as in control as possible with this. And if you notice that the weight on your feet is changing position, make the circle smaller and try to keep the weight as down into the center of your feet as possible. So you don't want to be like rocking back and forward on your feet. You want it planted. So you do those hip rotations, and then the next thing I do is a leg stretch and a upper body stretch combined. It's basically a touching your toes exercise. And in this exercise, many people, when they bend over to try to touch their toes, they bend from the waist. And they basically try to shrink their stomach and curve their spine and reach over like this, right? What I'm going to do is bend from the hips. So I try to keep my spine as straight as possible and let the hip joint be what bends. So I'm going to feel like these points right here are closing in. And it'll be more like this than like this. So, right, I can bend over and close this joint here. So for this, you're going to start with your fingers interlocked. The whole time your fingers will be interlocked, facing away from your face. The first part will be pressing down at your waist. So imagine there's a table in front of you and you're just pressing your weight down into a table. Don't push down. Imagine that your weight is you're just resting on the table. So you're just resting your weight on the table through those hands. And then, again, I do an 8 count for everything. Once that's done, you then press up. And now the point at which your body is hanging is now from the hands. So those go up and the whole rest of the body hangs down from those hands, which are pulled up into the sky. And then you're going to bend forward from the waist and lean forward. You don't need to try to touch your toes, just lean to whatever's comfortable and let your arms hang naturally in front of you. Don't be pressing down with them, just let them hang. And I hold that for an 8 count, and then we're going to do 2 rotations. So we're going to rotate to the right and the left, not rotating the hips. The hips stay stationary, the waist rotates. Again, just like with that waist, this exercise, the waist rotates. So I'll rotate this way, and I'll rotate this way. And you'll see what that looks like. Lean forward is your torso goes to one side. So my hips haven't moved, my torso has moved, and my hands are now over my foot. And I hold that for 8. I go back to center. And then I go to the other side for 8. And I usually do 2 times to each direction. So that'll be 3 to the center, 4 to the center and 2 to both directions. And in doing this, you should feel a pull from your back leg over your back in an X pattern across and into this arm. So as this arm is pulling, you're turning this way. That should be connected all through and across your back into this other opposite side. So from the end, now I'm in the center, I'm pressing down. To get back up, I rotate my hands up, I bring my knees forward, squatting down a little, and now I'm going to use my legs to push up through the whole body and feel the pressure from the legs straightening your body back up. And as you go up, it pushes up through the arms and they go back up to the sky. Oh, I'm showing you my belly there. And again, you hang down from the hands. And then from here, I drop my arms down to shoulder height as far as they can go in either direction. And imagine someone's pulling them as far as they can go outward. You're not pushing them out, they're being pulled out. I've got my stance too wide. So at some point when I was talking, I moved my stance a little too wide. So now that's the upper body. I think that's everything I do. Talking about it makes me forget what the hell I'm doing. So now we're going to do some knee rotations. A lot of people do knee rotations with these sort of things and whatnot. And in my opinion, the safest way to rotate your knee is with no pressure on it, no weight in it. And the easiest way to have no weight in your knee is for your leg to be off the ground. That way there's no way you can put any weight. So I'm going to sink onto the right leg and raise the left knee. And then I'm just going to rotate the foot beneath the knee, trying to keep the knee as stationary as possible. Just rotating the foot beneath it. In a big circle one way, and then circles the other way. And then I'm going to sink down into the other leg, do the same thing with this leg. And then the final stretch I do is for the ankles. So again, I'm going to sink down into this foot, touch, don't put pressure, but touch the ball of the foot to the floor. And now I'm going to rotate the knee in a circle, keeping the ball of the foot touching the floor and letting that rotate my ankle around in a circle as well. Then the other side. And I think that's all my stretches. I can't remember any that I've missed. So it's possible I missed one, but I think that's everything.